Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhadhammo Sangham namasami. I have a few readings this morning related to continuing with the chapter on happiness in Buddhadhamma. And we're on page 926, section E of the happiness chapter. This section is called Joy Leads to Spiritual Growth. The third kind of happiness referred to above is the happiness in spiritual development. This kind of happiness is generated from within an individual. It arises simultaneously with the overall development of one's life, and it accompanies progress in Dhamma practice. The development of the body, moral conduct, the mind, and wisdom may be referred to as spiritual cultivation or Dhamma practice. When this development progresses, one experiences this spiritual happiness. The Buddha gave a teaching on 5 factors of happiness in spiritual development, which are collectively given the unusual name of, quote, concentration of the Dhamma, Dhamma Samadhi. Although this group is not exclusively referred to as happiness, Sukha, happiness is one of the factors. Moreover, all of the other factors are attributes of happiness and are connected with happiness. Since our present discussion is on happiness, we can thus refer to this group as factors of happiness. The 5 factors contained in this group refer to specific mind states, which can be called happy mind states, sukha bhava. The Buddha repeatedly stressed that someone whose Dhamma practice bears fruit will grow in these 5 qualities. Conversely, if someone practices the Dhamma, yet these 5 qualities fail to arise, there will be no hope of true success. One example the Buddha gave is of someone who listens to the Dhamma and then investigates it. If he or she practices correctly, wisdom deepens, and these 5 mind states arise. Similar to social happiness, these 5 factors of happiness in spiritual development are based on wholesome enthusiasm, chanda, and they unfold in an ordered sequence. But they are not expressed outwardly. They exist as direct and immediate attributes of the mind. These factors are as follows. 1. Joy, pamoja. Also, cheerfulness, gladness. This is a fundamental attribute of the mind, which people should sustain at all times. In the Dhammapada, it states, full of joy, confident in the Buddha's teaching, a Buddha will attain the peaceful state, the stilling of formations, the bliss supreme. So just to note, the pamoja, gladness, as we often translate it, is we often chant about it in the Anapanasati Sutta in the third tetrad, abhipamodayang chittang. So
is that the Pali term that he uses? Pamoja?
Yeah, that's joy. Yeah, he's calling it joy, or cheerfulness or gladness, but pamoja is his term.
I didn't catch
the Pali. Yeah, pamoja. Another verse describes a monk who has practiced well and correctly and ends, full of joy, he will make an end of suffering. Joy, pamoja, is a vital innate quality, indicating that one is progressing in spiritual practice and has the potential to develop further. When one is full of joy, it is possible to realize nibbana, or one is close to nibbana. 2, the second factor of these 5 factors, delight, which is his translation for piti, or more commonly, rapture, bliss. So with joy, pamoja, there is delight, piti. 3, tranquility, passaddhi. Serenity, calm, physical and mental relaxation. This factor acts as the link between the body and mind. If the body is tense, the mind is tense. If the mind is stressed, the body is stressed. With piti, delight, there is tranquility and relaxation. 4. Happiness, sukha. Sense of mental refreshment, ease, absence of affliction and stress. With the arising of tranquility, there is happiness. 5. Concentration, samadhi. One-pointedness of mind, steadiness of mind, absence of mental disturbance. Attention rests on a chosen object as desired. With the arising of happiness, there is the potential for concentration. Concentration acts as the link to wisdom. It prepares the mind for the effective application of wisdom. And when wisdom is developed, every other aspect of spiritual development is optimized and progresses smoothly. The presence of these 5 factors is crucial to the spiritual development of human beings. When people are endowed with these factors, their education and work proceeds effectively, and their entire Dhamma practice is steady and reliable. If people practice incorrectly, the opposite qualities, like trouble and stress, arise. There is then an absence of joy, delight, tranquility, and happiness, and the mind remains scattered. One then experiences inner disturbance and obstruction. The mind is imbalanced and ill at ease. The result is a lack of progress or success. If one possesses these 5 complementary factors, they will automatically be integrated with spiritual qualities connected to society, in particular the 4 divine abidings. When one generates loving kindness towards others, one engages in self-development. The performing of benevolent deeds is simultaneously a way to practice the Dhamma within oneself. By acting kindly, one develops spiritually. At the same time, by radiating a sense of loving kindness, joy arises within. Joy is then followed by the other qualities, for example, delight. Similarly, when one compassionately aids someone who is suffering, once that person is healthy and at ease, one experiences delight, which is then followed by the other qualities, including happiness. If one is continually cheerful, relaxed, and calm, wherever one goes, one enhances one's social environment. Whomever one meets and speaks to feel at ease and shares in one's happiness. One thus induces happiness and engenders spiritual qualities in others. One supports others' spiritual development. When one walks on the correct path, these positive factors arise in a natural sequence. They are all interconnected. They are all aspects of happiness. A simple method of Dhamma practice is thus to maintain one's mind in a state of cheerfulness. Ideally, one combines this with loving kindness. Although it may not be one's intention, one's complexion will appear pleasing and attractive to others. One will have many cooperative and helpful friends. One will live with others in peace. One's community will prosper, and one's work will reach success. Here, let us compare these 3 kinds of happiness: sense pleasure, social happiness, and happiness of spiritual development. Sense pleasure is derived from external material things, obtained for one's own personal benefit. Each separate individual desires or covets these things, and thus sense desire breeds competition and conflict. It therefore requires caution and constraint. The purpose of the 5 precepts is to regulate sense desire, to manage the pursuit and consumption of material things, and to prevent people from creating an excessive amount of trouble and oppression for each other. However much people consume or contest for material things, one can wish that it does not reach the extent that the world becomes engulfed in flames. The 5 precepts exist as a reminder that sense desire requires supervision and restraint. Social happiness is generated by providing happiness to others and to society. It stems from a heart of loving kindness and compassion, the desire to see others at ease, and is thus a shared mutual happiness. The 5 happiness factors of spiritual development, beginning with joy, arise from within a person and have no negative effects on others. They may arise by doing good to others, and they are the starting point of spreading goodness outwards. So although it is an internal personal happiness, it brings about a connection with others. It fosters virtue and mutual assistance. The latter 2 kinds of happiness cause no harm. They are supportive to both the individual and to society. They help people to mitigate the harm from pursuing sensual pleasure, and they introduce people to a way of enjoying sensual pleasure, promoting mutual well-being. Moreover, they bring a refinement to people's lives and provide people with a way out, leading to higher levels of spiritual development. These 2 kinds of happiness should thus be given great emphasis. So I thought I'd do a few readings. The first one from the Majjhima Nikāya. Along both of the readings I have are along the lines of Pamoja. We talk about it quite a lot in our reflections as a way of just softening, gladdening, easing the mind into the actual more formal aspects of practice. As Bhikkhu Payutto was mentioning here, it's kind of the starting point, and that kind of gladness that can arise in the mind sets the stage for the other factors that lead to samadhi, a natural form of samadhi, rather than a forced form. So these 5 factors that he mentions are mentioned in different places through the suttas. And the one I'm going to read here is the Simile of the cloth, Vatthupama Sutta. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Sawati in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, Venerable Sir, they replied. The Blessed One said this. Bhikkhus, suppose a cloth were defiled and stained, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or pink. It would look poorly dyed and impure in color. Why is that? Because of the impurity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is defiled, an unhappy destination may be expected. Bhikkhus, suppose a cloth were pure and bright, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or pink. It would look well dyed and pure in color. Why is that? Because of the purity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is undefiled, a happy destination may be expected. What, bhikkhus, are the imperfections that defile the mind? Covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind. Ill will, anger, revenge, contempt, a domineering attitude, envy, avarice, deceit, fraud, obstinacy, presumption, conceit, arrogance, vanity, negligence is an imperfection that defiles the mind. Knowing that covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind, a bhikkhu abandons it. Knowing that ill will, etc., through negligence is an imperfection that defiles the mind, a bhikkhu abandons it. When a bhikkhu has known that covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind and has abandoned it, when a bhikkhu has known that ill will and all the others are imperfections that defile the mind and has abandoned them, he acquires perfect confidence in the Buddha thus. The Blessed One is accomplished, fully enlightened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, enlightened, blessed. He acquires perfect confidence in the Dhamma. Thus, The Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Blessed One, visible here and now, immediately effective, inviting inspection, onward leading, to be experienced by the wise for themselves. He acquires perfect confidence in the Sangha thus. The Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is practicing the good way, practicing the straight way, practicing the true way, practicing the proper way. That is, the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 types of individuals. This Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, the unsurpassed field of merit for the world. When he has given up, expelled, released, abandoned, and relinquished the imperfections of the mind in part, he considers thus, I am possessed of perfect confidence in the Buddha, and he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. That's the pamoja, gladness. When he is glad, rapture is born in him. In one who is rapturous, the body becomes tranquil. One whose body is tranquil feels pleasure. In one who feels pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. He considers thus, I am possessed of perfect confidence in the Dhamma. And he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When he is glad, the mind becomes concentrated. He considers thus, I am possessed of perfect confidence in the Sangha. And he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When he is glad, the mind becomes concentrated. He understands thus, the imperfections of the mind have in part been given up, expelled, released, abandoned, and relinquished by me. And he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When he is glad, rapture is born in him. In one who is rapturous, the body becomes tranquil. One whose body is tranquil feels pleasure. And one who feels pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. Bhikkhus, if a bhikkhu of such virtue, such a state of concentration, and such wisdom, eats alms food consisting of choice hill rice along with various sauces and curries, even that will be no obstacle for him. Just as a cloth that is defiled and stained becomes pure and bright with the help of clear water, or just as gold becomes pure and bright with the help of a furnace, so too, if a bhikkhu of such virtue eats alms food, that will be no obstacle for him. He abides, pervading 1/4, with a mind imbued with loving kindness, likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th, so above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to himself. He abides, pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. He abides, pervading a mind imbued with compassion, with a mind imbued with appreciative joy, with a mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise the 2nd, likewise the 3rd, likewise the 4th. So above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to himself, he abides, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. He understands thus, there is this, there is the inferior, there is the superior, and beyond there is an escape from this whole field of perception. When he knows and sees thus, his mind is liberated from the taint of sensual desire, from the taint of being, and from the taint of ignorance. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge. It is liberated. He understands. Birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. The sutta goes on for a little while, but I'll stop it at that point. There's one other sutta that I was considering reading, but for the sake of time, decided not to. But it's one in the Sangha Nikāya 12. Can't remember the exact number, but it's often referred to as transcendental dependent origination, where it's kind of an alteration of the usual formulation of dependent origination, and at the point of the sequence ending in experiencing suffering, then it kind of goes back up into a reverse order, starting based on suffering. There is faith. There's an inspiration. The person will start to be, rather than falling into more suffering, they are inspired to seek a path leading to the end of suffering and develop an interest and a faith in the teachings. And then the sequence starts to develop again, where you start to see the pamoja and the piti, etc., starting to arise in a positive sense from that experience of suffering. And so it then moves into a similar kind of a sequence where it results in liberation. But this last reading is from The Great Disciples of the Buddha by Nyanaponika, Thera, and Helmuth Hecker, edited by Bhikkhu Bodhi. And it's a bit of a passage regarding Visakha, who is one of the great disciples of the Buddha, one of his prime patrons. Once when the Blessed One and his monks were guests of Visakha, she requested him to grant her 8 boons. And this is from the Vinaya, the story. It comes from the Vinaya. He replied that the Perfect One had gone beyond the fulfilling of boons. She said that she did not wish for something blameworthy, but for allowable things. The Blessed One let her mention her wishes. She requested to give gifts to the order in 8 ways. 1, robes for the rains. 2, food for arriving monks. 3, food for monks setting out on a journey. 4, medicine for sick monks. 5, food for sick monks. 6, food for monks tending the sick. 7, regular distribution of rice gruel. And 8, bathing robes for nuns to bathe in the river. The Blessed One then asked her for which special reasons she made these requests. She explained in detail. 1, some monks had been forced to walk half naked in the streaming rain to preserve their robes, and thus were mistaken for naked ascetics. Therefore, she wanted to give rains robes. 2, newly arrived monks in Sawati, who did not know the town yet, had difficulty obtaining food, and had to walk for alms despite their weariness from their journey. Therefore, all arriving monks should be sent to her to receive food. 3, in the same way, she would like to give a good meal to monks setting out on a journey. 4 and 5, sick monks have to suffer much and may even die if they lack suitable food and medicine. Therefore, she would like to cook food for the sick. 6, a monk tending the sick had to go on alms round for himself as well as for the sick monk. He could easily be late, and both would not be able to eat after noon because the mealtime had already passed. Therefore, she wanted to provide food for monks tending the sick. 7, she had also heard how many benefits were connected with rice gruel in the early morning, so she would like to provide gruel to the order. And 8, it was unsuitable for nuns to bathe without clothes, as had happened recently. Therefore, she would like to provide them with a suitable covering. After Visakha had thus explained in detail the external benefits of her wishes, the Blessed One asked her what inner benefits she expected. Her answer shows how subtly and profoundly she had grasped the distinction between outward acts of virtue and inner mental training. She replied, "As to that, Lord, bhikkhus who have spent the rains in different regions will come to Sawati to see the Blessed One. They will approach the Blessed One and question him thus. Lord, the bhikkhu named so-and-so has died. What is his destination? What is his rebirth? The Blessed One will tell how such a one had reached the fruit of stream entry, or of once returning, or of non-returning, or of arahantship. I shall approach the bhikkhus and ask, Lords, did that bhikkhu ever come to Sawati? If they answer that he did, I shall conclude that surely a rains cloth will have been used by that bhikkhu or visitor's food, or food for one going on a journey, or food for the sick, or food for a sick nurse, or medicine for the sick, or the morning rice gruel. When I remember it, I shall be glad. When I am glad, I shall be happy. When my mind is happy, my body will be tranquil. When my body is tranquil, I shall feel pleasure. When I feel pleasure, my mind will become concentrated. That will bring the development of the spiritual faculties in me, and also the development of the spiritual powers and the enlightenment factors. This, Lord, is the benefit I foresee for myself in asking the 8 boons of the Perfect One. Good, good, Visakha, the Enlightened One replied. It is good that you have asked the Perfect One for the 8 boons, foreseeing these benefits. I grant you these 8 boons. So lived Visakha, Migara's mother, a model female lay devotee, endowed with unwavering confidence in the Triple Gem, securely settled in the fruit of stream entry, bound for a happy rebirth, and, in the end, for final deliverance from suffering.